Hi. Today I'm going to show you how to use multiple sprites to create the illusion of one object so they can react differently to the environment. The first thing we're going to do, we're just going to create a sprite player. And nothing fancy, we're just going to make a circle. The next thing we're going to want to do is center it, create a sprite gun, SPR gun, edit sprite. We're going to transform this to a little bit smaller, half the size of the player. And we're just going to make a circle right there. Should be there. Now it should be good. And I was just making sure it was a perfect circle for the purposes of alright, and that'll just signify what direction it is. And maybe I should make it a brighter color, something like bright red, just so we can really pick it out. And then I'll also, I guess, I'll just turn that all black. So that'll just represent the gun. Well, that represents the player. And we're going to center this one as well. So we're going to create an object, and it's going to be the object player. And we'll assign it the sprite player. We're not going to do anything inside of it yet. We're going to go to the objects and create another one. Create a object gun. And we're going to assign it the sprite gun. We're going to want to give it a depth of -1. And how the depth works is that 1 you can imagine as going to the back of your computer monitor, while negative is towards you. So the higher negative, the more towards you it is, and the higher positive number, the more away from you it is, like the way you're looking, like behind your computer screen, if that makes sense. So we just do -1 to draw on top of it. So let's just, and we don't actually need a create event, I don't believe. We'll just create a step event, and inside of it we're going to want to set the image angle equals point direction x y mouse x mouse y. And what we're doing is we're just telling it that the image angle should be equal to whatever direction relative to the sprite that the mouse is. So if the sprite's right here and the cursor is here, the mouse, it'll look that way. Alright, so we have that. And now what we're going to want to do, and let's just actually just create a room real quick and place both the objects inside of it. There we go. And we're going to go to the object player, and we're going to go to the create event, and we're going to make a step event as well. Inside the step event, and actually before we do any of that, let's go to the player and let's give it something to signify which way is the front, so we can actually visually see. So the red side is going to be the front side. That's still hard to see. Now it looks like Pac-Man, but like a watermelon type Pac-Man. Oh well. Um, that's good enough to show which ways it's facing. Now let's go back into the step, and we're going to want to make a movement script. So we're going to want to say hspeed equals keyboard check, and we're going to check for D first, and then we're going to do negative keyboard check ord and A. For V speed, and actually we're just gonna copy this and paste it, and we're just gonna replace it with S and W. And we're gonna make our speed variable speed equals, and actually we'll do that in the create event, but we want to do X plus equals H speed times speed, Y plus equals V speed times speed. And we need to go into our create event, or we need to make a create event. Let's open that up and make a speed equals 5 will be good. And we'll go back into the step. Alright, so now we have our player, which will move, and now we need to make the sprite face the right direction. So to do that, we're just going to make a switch, 2 switches that'll check H speed and V speed. And we know what they're going to equal. They're going to equal -1, 0, or 1. And it's going to be -1 if you're not pressing D but you are pressing A. It's going to be 0 if you're not pressing any or you're pressing both. It's going to be +1 if you're pressing D but not A. So that's how we know what the values are. So case H speed -1. So let's just quickly write in a break so we don't forget. And let's copy this 3 times. We're just going to go boom, boom. And we're going to remove the negative sign from in front of the last case, and we're going to just replace the middle case with 0. So if we are moving to the left, if -1, if that's the case, and our player's moving to the left, so if we have the A key pressed, then we're going to want to face to the left. But we also need to figure out which way we're facing as far as our Y speed. So we know that it's going to be to the left, but we don't know if it's left and up, left just normal, or left and down. So you know those diagonals. And that should be V speed. V speed. And let's just quickly do this. And that'll work perfectly. We copied that, and we're just going to paste it here and close it out. And we're just going to tab this over the cases, and we'll take out this V speed because we're doing it right there. That came out all funky. Oops. Sorry, I heard a scratching. Um, anyway, back to this. Got distracted. I heard scratching and I was wondering where it was coming from. Um, so we have -1. So if we're going left and we're also pressing W, then that goes here. So if it's -1 and -1, it's this way. We're going this way, which means our image angle, it wants to be, if this is 0, this is 90, this is 180, then it's 90 plus 45 degrees, because it's 90 degrees makes 1/4 of a circle, so half of it. So anyway, image angle equals 90 plus 45, which would be 135 degrees. And we're going to come down into the next case, which is if we're going left, but we're not pressing Y, so we're just going left, we're just going to have an image angle of 180. Then in our case 1, image angle. So if we're pressing left, because we're still in this, remember, and we're pressing S as well, so we're going this way, we're going to want to do 180 plus 45. So 225 equals 225. I think I did that right. And we break. And on this one we have the break. Alright, now we're in case 0, so let's just separate this a bit just to show it. And I'm going to move this over to signify that that's part of that. Alright, so since we already have it pre-made, let's just copy this and put it in here. And we're gonna we're actually gonna remove that break because we already have the break inside of it. So we're just gonna copy it again, but this time without the break. And now we're gonna place it in this one as well. Now these angles do change though. So if we're not pressing to the left, but we are pressing W. So if we're not pressing A, but we are pressing well, it's saying we're not pressing A or D. We're not moving either way, or maybe we're pressing both. If that's the case and we're going -1, then we're going up. So if we're pressing W while that's happening, we're going to want to have an image angle of 90 degrees. If nothing is being pressed, or all 4 are being pressed, then we're also just going to want to break out, and we don't want to change the image angle. And the reason we're going to just let it break is because if let's say we're going left and then we stop moving, we still want it to face this way. So it'll just break out if that's the case. So now if we're not moving left or right and we're going down, we're pressing the S key, it's going to be 270 degrees. V speed for case 1, if we're moving to the right and up, we're going to want it to be 45 degrees. If we're moving just to the right, 0 degrees. And if we're moving to the right and down, we're going to want 270 plus 45, which is 315 degrees. And then we have our break, our final break after that switch. And we can close out the original switch, which I think I should put back there. Alright. And now we have our player should move in the directions and the sprite should follow it. And our object gun should look at the cursor relative to its position. The only other thing we want to do is we're going to want to attach the gun to the player. So because we have it centered and they're both circles, we're just going to put it right in the center. We're just going to say X equals, so every time the step runs and we changing the sprite position, it's going to set this one equal to its X, which is right in the center. So equals object player dot x. We're going to copy and paste that because it's the same exact thing for the y, except we're just going to use y. So now the gun should also be on the player. We've placed them in our room already. Let's run this. And as you can see, we have the gun following the cursor. And when we move the player, the gun follows the cursor still, and the player goes in the direction that we're clicking, or that we have it, we tell it to go through A, S, W, and D. So that's how you do that, and it's really cool because I know this doesn't really show it because it's a very quick tutorial, and I didn't want to waste your time going over the graphics. But what if you had like a cannon, maybe you had a tank or something, and this is the tank gun right here, and you have it driving, so you can drive like this and you can shoot the tank. And the other thing is you can actually set it so it's not on the direct middle. So if you wanted it on one side, and then the only thing you would have to know is the status of H speed and V speed to change its position as well if you wanted it here. Because if you knew which direction it was facing, which way the sprite direction was facing, hell, you could even go into its own switch statement, and when it changes the image angle, also have one called like direction, but not actually direction, have it like DRCTN, because direction is a pre-built variable in the game. So you just want one that's like minus a couple of vowels. And from there, you'll set the player direction. So like if it's down, you'd set it to down or whatever, or you could set it to numbers. But then in that one's switch statement that sets its image position, you would set that based off of the numbers that you're getting from this one, the object player, and where its direction would be. And if you're doing it by the words, your switch statement would just be the in quotes the word you're using. So like down, down, right, right, up, left, up. What do you call that direction? Like what? There needs to be a word for that direction because it's been throwing me off this. Like I've done a couple other video tutorials, and I got so caught up on the direction and what to call that direction. Like I know it's diagonal, but how do you signify which diagonal way it's going? It doesn't matter. Anyway, thanks for watching. Peace.